Well, another pound of ground beef down, and you know what? Welcome back to Krown's Cave. It's a nice early Tuesday morning over here from Chicago, Illinois. We fly over beautiful downtown. It really never gets old. I mean, my God, man, I truly do love this city. It is just an architectural pleasure to the eye, and we got plenty to talk about on Bitcoin because I'd like to follow up from this morning's video as we actually have hit a few of the downside objectives, so I do want to follow up on that. A few more opportunities kind of aligning us in the face, and a few more higher time frame ideas as well. But more or less, I do want to wish you well on this nice little Tuesday. As always, wishing you the best and the happiest of the happiest, and always just wishing you well because why fucking not, man? It's free to wish someone well, and if everyone did in the world, then maybe the world would be a little bit of a happier place. Anyways, before I get too deep and down and dirty into my utopian ideals, let's get a live team right here, right now, and talk about some goddamn magic and money as initiate the time. There it is. Fly me in, baby. Bitcoin on the daily right here. And actually, I'll start off with a little bit of proof of trade. I think it is a good idea to follow through with this. I'm still holding the same positions. Essentially, this position is hedged off with options, so I'm essentially delta neutral. I've locked in this P&L right here, and just waiting for expiration on Friday, which I'll probably do the same thing over again, really. But other than that, I don't really have any like major changes to be making with this. I'm happy with this position right here, as Bitcoin on the higher time frames is kind of trending above all the major areas that I look at as major pivots for the longer terms and macro time frames. Of course, that's going to directly conflict with what we're looking at on the lower time frames. Bitcoin is actually ticking down here pretty aggressively. But let's actually get into the charts right now, as I make sure that my video is recording. Okay, good. Mic is actually working as well. Also good. Nicely done. And Bitcoin have actually a pretty massive girthy red dildo right here. Bears are mean, except looking at this right here, you know, and if we actually do put on our drawing tools, you'll notice very quickly that we're actually dipping back down exactly into that 11,400-ish region that we spoke about earlier today, which is also going to be confluent with the 4-hour yellow 21 exponential moving average right here. And I would say that it's a little bit like that we actually do bounce off this area. Now, we did wick down a little bit lower than that. We are currently at 11,350, but I do think that, you know, when you're looking at these areas, you can't be too precise with them just because, well, you know, these wicks can land anywhere, and I really am just more concerned with where the bots and algos kind of force price action at the end of their close, because that's what they're going to be programmed to do. So right now, just kind of hanging out right at this region right here. It doesn't look to me like we actually want to break it right now, and that yellow 21 exponential moving average is coming in right around about a few hairs below 11,400, which is essentially the areas that I was speaking about during this morning's video. So we are getting that pullback that we spoke about. All of the lower time frame oscillators are turning down right here. We do see 4-hour Stokes down, we see 3-hour Stokes down as well, and we see 2-hour Stokes down, and we see hourly Stokes down. So I want to remind myself to talk about this because during this morning's video, if you remember, we were like somewhere right around here for the hourly Stokes, and for the 4-hour Stokes, we were somewhere like right on over here, right? But my point is, hey, when we see all these guys line up on the same side, which we saw the very initial etchings of that happening during the morning video live stream, that's actually when you typically do get those moves to play through. And as you can see right here, well, a few hours later, we're actually getting that move to play through. Do I always think that you're going to get about like a $500 move down? About a $500 move down? No, not always a $500 move down, but good enough for some price action, especially with regards to like our next major level, which is this even a major level right here? It's not necessarily even a major level, but it is the next, you know, significant level, so to speak. So we are seeing that play out, and I would say that this is, you know, quite a healthy pullback right here. We got some bullish selling. No, just kidding. Bad joke to be making. No, just overall, Bitcoin is still in one massive consolidation. Don't get me wrong. Nothing's changed from the greater picture, right? Bitcoin's just in one massive consolidation. But in the lower time frames right here, we are seeing the actual pullback that we were, you know, looking for coming into the last 24 hours of action. So finally happening, I would say that that's on the more healthy side. I view this as just a healthy pullback in general, as long as we remain above this pivot right here, this blue box territory down here at around 10.7. And you'll notice that there are actually a couple of horizontals along the way. One of them is being tested right now. The next one at about 11,150. Both of them of equal importance, but more importantly, they're actually not. Well, more importantly, they're not as important as this guy right here or this guy right here, which actually change around the medium and macro time frames, especially for this one right here. This one not so much macro and more like a medium and long-term time frame. But my point is that I look at this as a healthy pullback as long as we remain above this pivot right here. This is the major area of action, which I'll explain a little bit more later into this video. But for right now, not important to understand as we look at this price action kind of pulling back into this region. Essentially, what we're looking for now is for Bitcoin to kind of grind out the 21 exponential moving average on the 4-hour dildo time frame right here, and just kind of put in some time sideways if this thing is going to remain bullish. We don't, you know, we just want to see it kind of holding on in the same way that we saw, you know, a nice consolidation right here, just going sideways within that blue box territory. And we could probably come up with a few more examples if we go a little bit further back in time. But again, not as important as the other things that I want to speak about. Of course, the important thing here is that the higher time frames are certainly very much, very much unchanged. Really, looking at the daily, yes, we are getting our first, our our first red dildo in the last Jesus Christ 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days, literally the first time in 1 week, which as long as we're kind of within the confines of this consolidation in general, nothing's really changing here. So to me, this is, this pullback is to be expected, as we actually did hit our first. I mean, I don't say these things to brag, but we did hit our first target to the upside first right here. Then come back down, put in a little bit of sideways here as we spoke about, then come hit our downside target. And I actually do think that this one is quite powerful here. Anyways, back to what I wanted to speak about and spend a little bit more time on is did I make this on the 4 hour? Yeah, I think it was. No, it's not on the 4 hour. It's on the daily. Yeah, if we use wicks here, you'll notice that Bitcoin actually just hitting off the top side of our range in general, whether you're kind of using, you motherfucker, how dare you do that right there? My bad, sorry about that. My autism coming out quite harshly right now. But my point is that we do have this nice trend line kind of connecting all of the wicks right here, which yes, very rarely do actually care about wicks, and more importantly, the thing is that right now it's valid, or sorry, it's not that it's valid. They're both valid, but this one is more applicable right now because we don't have the closures to deal with. And if we actually do look at this from a closing perspective, well, look at where we put in the last few highs. So, which one do I put more weight on? Of course, dildo bodies. But intraday, before we actually have the dildo body closure, we still do have this guy to deal with right over here. And this is why I wasn't necessarily looking for the big breakout to like new all-time highs or anything like that, or even past this current high right here at 14,000. Even with the advent of the price action yesterday, which was quite nice, but we're just kind of hitting up towards that same resistance trend line. Anyways, what's more important here is that the bigger timeframes are still just that of consolidation, but I would say that's a healthy consolidation. And you can also see that we actually wicked off the 382 Fibonacci retracement right here as well. So just another area of interest, essentially. I just want to show that this is, while we're dealing with bigger ranges, this is quite normal shit. Anyways, looking at our daily oscillators, we do see daily Stokes still very much straight up to the sky. More importantly, we see the daily and the 2-day lining up with each other, which very rarely do we actually see. We see the 2-day actually starting to turn right now, and by the nature of it, the 3-day, which is going to confirm tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Let me just confirm that. Yes, it will be tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. As long as we close anywhere above this current area right here, would actually do it. 11.4, it looks like. So the next 24 hours of price action is very, 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 very important. As long as Bitcoin holds the 21 exponential moving average on the 4 hour, we will get those crosses, and more importantly, we'll kind of have the daily, 2-day, and 3-day all lined up on the same side, which very rarely we actually see on price action. Remember at the beginning of this video, we spoke about the 1 through 4 hour Stokes, which usually when they line up with each other, you do get some nice moves. In this case, about a $500 move relatively soon. And you'll remember that actually not so long ago, right on over here, it was more like right on over here, they all started to turn right over here. This is why I wasn't getting bearish in this region, and this is why myself and I'm sure and actually a lot of other people, and especially the sneaky motherfuckers who told me that they took this trade earlier than me, getting long in this region right here. That's exactly what we're looking for. It starts off with the lower time frames, but why are the lower time frames, why are the lower time frames even relevant? Because they have carry on over into the higher time frames, which is exactly what we saw. So we saw the 12-hour and daily turn first. That happened right around this region right here, produce that next $1,000, $1,500 move to the upside. And now we're actually seeing the next set of them kind of move off. And like I said, we actually very rarely see the daily, 2-day, 3-day, and actually weekly as well. Almost, extremely rarely do they actually line up at the same time, coming from the same crosses from around the same areas. The last time that we actually saw them all line up with each other was back on over here in early February, actually, where the daily was in this posturing down here. The 2-day was in, where's my early Feb, was in this posture right here, and the 3-day was in this area right here, all coming from the same side is what I'm trying to show. And well, that produced the last 6 to 7 months of price action pretty much straight to the sky here. Anyways, we're starting to see the daily, 2-day, and 3-day line up with each other once again. We see the 2-day looking like they have confirmed to the upside. They are very wrecked right now, and they're actually diverging away from each other quite aggressively. And then we see the 3-day, which I'm going to put you on right now, crossing the upside as well. So we are seeing confluences within this, and to me, that is quite powerful. Now let's actually take this one step further and look at the weekly. Which the weekly, if I can bring it up, the weekly is actually looking like a little bit of weakness to the downside. So it does look like it actually, has potential for turning, especially as it gets down to the bottom side of the bullish control zone right here. You want to see a signature during your strong trending moves, similar to what you saw right on over here. And this is basically all of 2017 to 2018. If you remember, that was literally this price action here going all the way from about $1,000 to $20,000, literally a 20 fucking X. Insanity, fucking insanity. But that is what you expect from your Stokes during strong trending moves. So if Bitcoin actually does start to curl around right in over here, which will be mediated by the 2-day and 3-day, of course, which are actually just in the initial process of crossing up right now. If we actually get that follow through onto the weekly, that's just going to be the next, major macro area that I'm looking for to kind of feel more confident in targeting some more moon boy targets, if you want to put it that way. I fucking hate that I talk about that kind of shit, but it is, it's starting to become more and more appropriate, just because that's what we're fucking dealing with right here. To be fair, that's actually what we're dealing with right now. So as more evidence comes up, it becomes now I have to turn into a fucking moon boy. Anyways, I like being a moon boy. I like being moon boobs boy, more importantly. But looking at all these guys right here, kind of turning at the same time, and I would say that this, this very well could be the next major play that we're looking at. Now, of course, when we're looking at higher time frames, they're naturally going to take a lot more time to transpire. But what we're looking at right now probably happens over the next few months. I'd say 3 to 5 months most likely is kind of the time frame that we're looking at here. But things are shaping up quite nicely. We just had about a 30% move to the downside in this consolidation over the last 5 weeks. Yeah, about 35% move to the downside. Didn't necessarily touch the yellow 21 exponential moving average. I think that's the only major concern, I think, from most like well-reasoned technical analysts. But you don't always have to test down there. And of course, during your strong trending moves, as I've been speaking about for quite some time, the red 10 simple moving average will hold things. And Bitcoin doesn't have a good history of actually playing off the red 10 simple. It actually really does like to play off the yellow 21, but doesn't mean that it can't happen. It just means more probabilistic. But hey, take the strength when it's thrown in your face, and this one very much apparent. When we go over our higher time frames as well, we do see 3-day RSI actually looking like it wants to confirm above this exponential moving average right here. If we can get that, if we can actually get this confirmation, which again will happen tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Standard Time, as long as we are here or higher, essentially, maybe we could have a little bit more downside, maybe down to like 11.2 perhaps. Although I wouldn't want to cut it too close. If we could actually confirm above this exponential here, I'd say that would be a damn good confirmation that this is being resolved. This is a consolidation, just bouncing between the bullish control zone and the neutral zone, and this is being resolved to the upside. And actually, we do have a nice little formation here. I guess I already have it in there. It is a falling wedge. I fucking hate falling wedges. Falling wedges can go all die in a holocaust. They're fucking disgusting, and you should honestly hate them too. Just kidding. No, you shouldn't hate them, but I will hate them enough for both of us. I really fucking dislike these guys. I do put weight on them when it actually does happen on RSI. RSI formations seem to play out a lot better in cryptocurrency land, in my experience, than actually on price action. Funnily enough, though, we actually do have a falling wedge on price action as well, so it is falling through concurrently with both these guys. I think I have it charted out over here on the Bitstamp chart. Yeah, I had it right on over here, and we actually broke out to the upside. We already did actually hit the measure move on that falling wedge as well, as you can see. And in fact, for the people calling in Adam and Steve pattern on the bottom as well, we've hit that measure move as well. I'm talking about this. It would be this guy right here. Sorry, let me just try to eyeball it a little bit lower than that, something like that. Yeah, looks like we actually hit it about 1-to-1. If I put a nice little horizontal right here to kind of judge this off of, yeah, there we go. Not bad. Anyways, my point is that we're still in one massive consolidation. Things are turning around in the higher time frames, to which would have a bullish bias, but we're not there just yet. So for all the moon boy talk, I want to be very, very clear and adamant about saying this. Do I think that Bitcoin is breaking out to the upside right now? No. For all of the perma bulls who are saying that we actually broke out last night, no, that's not what we're looking at right here. This is still within the confines of the greater whole, and we're not getting breakout volume on this as well either. If we actually chart this out, or sorry, not chart this out, but just kind of eyeball this one out over here, we actually, well, are we getting breakout volume? We do see a little bit of a change of behavior right here, but we're not clearing any sort of major resistances along the way either. I want to see either this level closed above or this level wicked above. Whichever one comes first is the one I'd be happy with going towards, and we just don't have that just yet. But we are seeing the initial etchings of this happen. We are seeing historical volatility percentile take up once again. We are below the moving average on it though, so it's still kind of in a decision phase. We don't really have too much to make out of that, but it does follow, more importantly, with the 4-hour and lower, that these time frames actually really starting to tick up once again as well. They're actually trending the upside, and by the way, we got to pretty much a zero on this not so long ago, actually on the first day of August, so about a week ago, and very rarely do we get extremely low on the 4-hour historical volatility percentile on Bitcoin. Last time that we saw this was actually in late March, before this breakout right here, this massive fucking girthy breakout right here. So my point is that again, when we're looking at the higher time frames, kind of matching up those things, which very rarely happen, maybe like a few times a year at most, when we get all those guys on the same side. Same thing with, historical volatility percentile on a time frame like this. So it all falls together that, yes, we are still in one massive consolidation, but I would feel comfortable saying that this consolidation is, certainly more bullishly biased, more healthy consolidation, but going to take its time and has not broken out just yet. Now let's get into the fun part where we start looking at these moving averages, which I want to bring up the, I want to talk about some a little bit, I've been talking about this for a while, but I want to talk about some a little bit new as well. So we're going to be looking at the green 50 exponential moving average, the purple 200 exponential moving average, which I'm going to refer to as the golden cross and death cross moving averages, and then the white 200 simple moving average right here. So first and foremost, the main actors right here are the green 50 and the purple 200. And as you can see, we had a death cross right here, which sent Bitcoin about $1,000, $1,500 lower from its current posturing down to that current low. And then we got the golden cross right on over here about 2 weeks later. And if you remember from the past, couple weeks of videos, and I don't want to do this all over again because it's probably boring as fuck, but from the past couple of weeks of videos, I actually went through and documented all of the different death crosses and golden crosses and how long they took and how much damage was done, all, and compared all of them for the general upwards markets. And what we found was, or what I found was, it takes about 2 weeks on average from it to go to death cross to golden cross. And then after that, well, and then the actual damage done was highly variable, actually. It was as much as like 20% and as low as literally 0, whereas in some cases the low was actually put in beforehand. But in this case, it was pretty much right in the middle, actually. Getting the death cross right here on price action, going all the way down about 12%. So we're kind of right in the middle, par for the course, essentially, is what I want to say. So historically speaking, I just want to, make the case that this was relevant to what we've seen in the past. Now let's go back in the past and we're going to look at two different things. So first and foremost, put this little picture in your mind's eye. And we're going to go back in time to the last general upwards market, which, by the way, this one's been very much generally upwards. Not during 2018. This was generally downwards. But going back into 2015, 2016, and the turn of the last bear market cycle to the last upwards market cycle, we start seeing death crosses and golden crosses on the 4-hour digital time frame starting in about July 2016, where we have this first death cross. Takes about a month, I believe. Yeah, about a month from August to September to get the golden cross right over here. So this one was a little bit more of a longer one, of course. But more importantly, once we get the golden cross, look at this. Once we get the golden cross, about 120 days later, we get a 95% increase in price. Pretty fucking good, right? But that's just an n=1. And then more importantly, we do see that Bitcoin actually does come down and test the 200 simple and the 200 exponential moving average multiple times before it really does rocket off. So let's go to this next one over here and kind of get more of an idea of what this typically does. And death cross, golden cross takes about a week here. Then we get about a 50% move, 53% move to the upside, done over the course of 48 days. So about half the times what we saw, half the time frame of what we saw the last one done on, but also half the results. And same sort of signature here as well. We see the golden cross, and we see both those moving averages get above the white 200 simple. That's when things really take off, just like we saw right in over here, right? Where once these two moving averages sustained above the white 200 simple, boom, massive move to the upside, and then same thing right in over here. Then we get this next death cross right in over here, get the golden cross about 2 weeks later, it looks like, and after that one, we have a fucking massive monumental move going all the way from, what is it, $1,000 to, Jesus Christ, man, to this next high in June, like literally months later. Done over the course of 69 days. Fucking phenomenal. Great job, Mr. Bitcoin. And we do 176%, spot 72. More importantly, you do see that once the two golden cross moving averages, the green and the purple, get above the white 200 simple, which is right here, that's when Bitcoin really takes off to the upside. The momentum is really being gained after that point, is what I really want to say. Then we get this next example right on over here where Bitcoin gets another death cross drama, and we get the golden cross about a week and a half later. And after that, we do see a pretty massive move to the upside once again, to the tune of about 107%, done over the course of 42 days. So you're getting kind of like an idea now, usually on average around 60 days, we'll call it. 50 to 60 days, and about a 2x so far. And then same thing here, we get the green and the purple above the white 200 simple right there. Boom, massive girthy green dildo party to the upside. And then we get the same thing right over here. I know this is getting boring now, but it takes about a week and a half, 2 weeks for it to go from death cross to golden cross. We see the green and the purple get above the white 200 simple, and holy fucking moly, that's the final one before we actually go into our full-on parabolic blow off top. 400% move to the upside done over the course of 78 days and 23 hours. And That's it until we get the actual bear market cycle, an actual changing of market cycle right there. So my point is that right now we are seeing Bitcoin slowly but surely work its way through. We got the green 50 exponential moving average above the white 200 simple, but we don't necessarily have the purple 200 exponential moving average there just yet. It will be more reactive than the white 200 simple, just naturally because it's fucking exponential moving average. But more importantly, it's going to take a little bit more time than the green 50. Of course, it's a higher period. So what I'm watching for next, and kind of to time my next trade, or talking about my next like actual trade, like a long, perhaps a longer term trade or a trade idea, because nothing's guaranteed to work out. It's just a statistical setup essentially, and the reason why I like it is because the statistics are certainly very much on your side, and more importantly, if this trade is going to go against me, well, I have a very easy, well-defined risk area, as the white 200 simple is just a natural stop, really. Any sort of open and close below there, and we got big problems. But more importantly, when we actually do get both these guys above the white 200 simple, and we see that next drive down into the 200 simple or 200 exponential moving average, both of them of equal importance, I'd actually, I'm going to be looking to put on some more long-term positions for that. Again, using, with good risk management, of course, putting the risk management right below there as well. Of course, that is, more personal topic, I suppose. But more importantly, I'm waiting for this to happen. That's, kind of the three-pronged attack that I'm looking for that next trade. So this whole consolidation right here, I'd imagine, is still going to go through, some more ebbs and flows before we actually get both these moving averages above the white 200 simple. It's going to take its time. How long does it take? Does it take another week or two? I don't, I don't fucking know. Of course, downside price action right here will just make this take longer, really. So the longer that Bitcoin kind of stays up, about $1,000 above these guys currently, that's going to draw them up quite rapidly. But for now, with this downside drama, we really don't want to see Bitcoin break below 11.4, just because that's going to imply that these guys take longer to cross each other. And that's kind of what I'm looking for to begin the next momentous move in line with all of our higher time frame oscillators, which we saw on both the Stokes and RSI. Looking like they want to switch around, but they're not quite there just yet. It's not confirmed just yet, but it is switching around. We see the initial etchings of it, just like when we saw the 1 through 4 hour turn right at around here, which kind of gave us a tip off on the next major move. Then we saw the 12 hour and the daily turn right on over here. That tips us off for the next move. Now we're seeing the next sort of echelon of that, the next evolution of that. So that's why I talk about it. I don't mean to like bring up fucking old ideas or anything like that, or just talk about like past successes. No, that's not the purpose here. It's to follow through with that same sort of logic, carry on over into the next time frame is what I really want to talk about. Anyways, we spoke about all of that, so that all looks good. I guess we'll check out the lower time frames just a little bit more here. I didn't really flesh them out all that much, but let's put back on all the moving averages as well. Let's do that. Okay, and all right. So yeah, just kind of talk about the lower time frames here. As long as I do think that Bitcoin bounces off the yellow 20-month exponential moving average, probably puts in some time going sideways here, gives people a few scares to the downside, but more or less I want to see this area at the very least provide a little bit of holding, so that we can get those 4 hour moving averages above that critical point that we spoke about. That's really what I'm waiting for next. But could it be that we actually break this trend line here, or the yellow 20-month exponential moving average, both pretty much equal at around 11.4? Yes. And where would I be looking for if that does happen? About 11,150 essentially. And here's the thing: when Bitcoin has a very constructive, when Bitcoin has a very constructive consolidation, this is really good from a long-term perspective. And the reason why is because it provides all this support on the way down if we actually do tick down. So my point is that when you see something like this, it does, the reason why it's healthy is because now Bitcoin has to really like just fucking truck through all of these supports in order for me to even not even get bearish, but just look for legitimate downside. And I wouldn't even be looking for legitimate downside, especially as long as we're above the white 200 simple on the 4 hour, which is coming in at the bottom of this blue box territory right here at about 10.7 region. And even then, bearish wouldn't be the right word. I'd be looking for some significant downside. I do think that we'd if we broke that area, we'd very likely see back down here to at least 9,900 and probably test down to 95, 9,400. That's at the point where actually could get bearish. If we do end up breaking the support right here at about 94, 9,500, then I can get on the side of looking for a major massive retracement into the 8,000s, maybe even lower than that. But for right now, I'm just not on the same page as that. I know a lot of people are looking at this and thinking that this goes back down to 8,500 or 7,500, or I've seen even some people say below 5,000. As a trader, I just don't see that how you can see that. I just don't see how you can say that as it is right here. There's a lot of things that need to happen happening for me to get like super bearish on this asset, and breaking below that 9400 level first would be would be a good start. But really from a long-term perspective, as long as we're riding this green 50 exponential moving average to the upside here, which is going to be confluent with the yellow 21 on the weekly, I don't see any real reason to be bearish. I mean, look at this. Bitcoin has a great history of actually playing off it to the upside, right on over here, just loves to rally off it, and then to the downside, it likes to sell off of it, of course. And then same thing right on over here from 2016 to 2018, and same thing right on over here in 2018, where it actually, well, gets fucking wrecked. And more importantly, where's that green 50 exponential moving average coming in on the 3-day time frame right now? 8,500. 8,500, and more importantly, we're also above the white Krown moving average as well, which has been a damn good indication of just the overall phase of market cycle that we're in. You do see when we're above it, generally good. When we're below it, generally bad. Good, bad, good, and hopefully we don't go back below it again, because that would be bad. If you want to be bullish, of course, as a trader, you shouldn't really give a fuck about which direction it's going, and that's really who I want to speak most to. But right now, I do feel quite strongly about that. Anyways, we can always put on the super gup as well. I don't want to get into too much like higher time frame bullshit here, because I do want to make a conscious effort to make these videos a little bit shorter, like perhaps maybe no more than like 20 minutes maybe. But looking at the super guppy, we do see from a longer term time frame perspective, this indicator, while it is quite newbie, I suppose you could say, it gets the job done. To be fair, it gets the job done, and more importantly, it gets it right. So looking at it from historically speaking, when it turns green, it stays green. When it turns red, it stays red for a while. And we're talking about years at a time. This is like a 2-year rally right here, 2.5-year rally. This is about a year just downside right here, about a 3-year rally right here, another year downside right here. And guess what? We just turned green relatively recently at the turn of June. So it's only a couple months away, and we're usually talking about months and months of price action when looking at something like that. So I also want to kind of touch on that as well. The only way that I see Bitcoin, really jumping back down, even below, this is gonna sound crazy, even below like 9,000, is a black swan event. And that's always a possibility, right? You have kind of outliers like Tether, you have outliers like the like regulation talks, especially in the U.S. That can all put a damper on it. But for now, as far as technicals goes, I don't really see any real reason to be looking for something like that. It's only if we break like 9,400, 9,500 where I could really jump on the same side as that. Anyways, go check out CMEs here. CMEs trading about $200 higher than spot right now, and CMEs did close and confirm as a what do you want to call this, shooting star dildo? Do you want to call it some sort of a gravestone dildo? I don't care what you call it. This is typically a reversal dildo right here, and we actually do have fall through to the downside, so this is actually warranted as well. But as you can see, we do have nice structural support just by eyeballing it right around here, right around from that former breakout, right around 11,000 actually. So again, same thing here. I don't really see any real reason to be bearish on this at all until you actually start breaking back down below this $11,000 region. And again, bearish is the wrong term, like looking for real downside. As it stands right now, we're just kind of fulfilling another test of the top side of our overall resistance right here. You can see that this is confluent amongst all the different exchanges, really. And in fact, this actually does kind of line us up for a massive flag essentially. I mean, we're kind of in a falling channel, which typically do break out to the upside, and this one no different. So we could make a measure move on this baby, which now I'm going to get into like the super deep fucking moon boy chat now, which why not? If this is going to be a flag, which I'll just do a terrible drawing of a flag right there, then we can make a measure move on this. It'll be something like this. This is not very exact. This is not very scientific, but just to give an idea, somewhere maybe around like $17,000, give or take like $500, something like that. If we do break out the top side, which I do think happens over time, but not right now. I don't think that's what we're looking at right now. I do think that we have some more sideways to maybe even a little bit more downside to go before that becomes a legitimate topic. But for right now, okay, and I just want to give like the bird's eye view of this. I do think it's a healthy consolidation. I do think that it ultimately breaks out to the upside, but do I think that we're going just straight up from here? No, I don't. So I hope I'm damn clear with that. Let's also go check out GBTC, which has closed for the day, so we can see exactly what it looks like. And GBTC not really giving us too much here actually. It's not really giving us too much here actually. Not really helpful. It does look a little bit more toppy with it. It looks like it wants some more downside here, perhaps back down to 14 and 15 cents, which would imply some more downside on spot charts as well. Back down to this spike high on July 16th. So I'm curious where spot price action is during that time frame. July 16th was the date that I said, right? So the 16th of July was, yeah, from this breakdown right here. So that actually would suggest that we actually do get back down to 10.9 region, possible. But you'll even notice that 10.9, guess what, is still above the white true and simple on the 4 hour. So as long as we're above the white true and simple on the 4 hour, I do think that is more or less, okay. But that does mean that we could have, another what, Jesus Christ, $400-$500 to the downside. It's significant, right? It's, you don't just want to like blindly be fucking holding longs or anything like that. It's, of course, even worse, like if it actually breaks down, then that's fucking terrible. Anyways, okay, cool. So we spoke about that. What else do we want to talk about? I would say that overall GBDC is more or less good, just because we did have a massive bullish engulfing dildo closed on the weekly last week, and that kind of resolves this, especially back up above the red 10 moving average, as pretty damn healthy consolidation, and actually getting looks like it's kind of gaining strength here. So looking at looking at this current weekly dildo right here, yes, we did make we did get continuation, but we have come back down and fill the gap at the same time. So it has been tested. If you want to be super bullish right here, you actually want to see this area hold, which when I'm looking at the hourly, it doesn't look like it wants to hold in an hourly, to be fair. If I was just looking at this, I'd say that this probably does come back down to that 10.9 region, or $14, a little bit above $14 on GBDC. Anyways, back over to Mr. Bitcoin, and I think it's time to start looking at our other top shitcoins. Actually, before we do that, let's go look at the Bitcoin dominance chart. I'm curious how this one's doing right now on the lower time frames. Have we found a local top? Well, that's an hourly, so it doesn't really help all that much. Daily starting to look like we found a local top. This is starting to shape up as a shooting star dildo right there. Pretty damn intense actually as well. A little bit of an outlier on the volume there, but still not anything damning. When we look at the higher time frames, this still looks like continuation to me. So while we even if we don't break it right here, which is looking a little bit less likely on the lower time frames, I would say that higher time frames suggest continuation over the long period of time, especially when we look at like a monthly. But the problem with them looking at a monthly and comparing it to a daily is that you have fucking 30 days in a month, right? Or almost, or almost most months, sometimes 31. But my point is that this looks like continuation. This looks bullish. This looks like it wants to take up to like 72%, which would spell a shit ton of hurt for a lot of alts. Whereas the lower time frames, like a daily, we put in a top right now. Maybe we are grinding up against a 200 exponential moving average on the on the weekly here, and also the 200 simple as well, just by the nature of it. So it's making it a little bit more difficult as we take back down to 69.2. Not bad, great number as well. But my point is that our altcoin's safe right now. Longer term, I still stick with what I've been saying. Longer term, I think that most alts are going to get cream pied. Months down the road, especially between like now and the end of the year. But in the more immediate time frames, do we have a little bit of downside here? Yeah, if we close a day like this, yes, we will. So I would keep an eye out for that as well, as we are about 1 hour and 15 minutes away from the daily total close. So hopefully by the time that I am, hopefully by the time I am, I'm putting this out, we'll actually be able to have a resolution on that. Anyways, go check out. Come on, baby. Jesus Christ. Let me get off that. Too many. What are those called? Things on my computer. Motherfucker. Anyways, let's go check out the other two top shitcoins, Mr. Beaterall and Mrs. Litecoin. What's Mr. Beaterall doing here? Mr. Beaterall is looking like a rejection here. This was my concern coming into today. I really don't want to see him close below the yellow 20-month exponential moving average, and even then, even if we close above, even if this gets salvaged before end of day, I will have some concerns with this, but it does offer up a very easy way to be trading this. If we close, basically if we close the daily here, anywhere here, it doesn't matter. It's going to close likely somewhere around here. It's not going to change all that much whether it closes above or below the yellow 21. The way that I look at it and the way that I trade it would be the same. If we do come into tomorrow's daily dildo, which again happens in about an hour and 15 minutes, and we take out the low side of this current dildo at 223.05, then yes, I would be looking for this to actually break back down towards the 209, 210 region down here, and actually fill out this space and look a lot more bear flaggy, really. By the same token, as long as it holds above, and if we can actually take out the high of this dildo at 240, which is going to be a little bit of a trudge to be fair, then then I'd actually be bullish for a move all the way up here towards about 270-ish region. Yeah, about 275 actually in this little pocket territory right here. The thing is that if you are looking at this, oh, you motherfucker, bastard trading view, how dare you? If you are looking at this as a as a symmetrical triangle, which it very much is, this that is appropriate to be saying something like this essentially, then we could say the measure move to the upside actually was already had, and now we're getting rejected from it. So do we go back to neutrality? Well, technically yes, and we could actually use this as a potential pivot as well, which is going to be lined up with the daily 10 simple. So you could also just extrapolate what I said a little bit more and say any sort of move back down below 217.5. That'd be another kind of way of formulating the downside trade. Although I'd feel comfortable being a little bit more aggressive on that. If we take out the low side of today's daily total, again 223 and 5 cents, 223 and a nickel. I'd be looking for that to actually come back down here towards the low 200s. Anyways, for now, I'd say it's most likely to just go on with Bitcoin. We do still see daily Stokes to the upside. What about 2-day? 2-day Stokes are to the upside as well. What about 3-day? 3-day are up as well. Looking a little bit weak, but Jesus Christ, man, nasty 3-day right there. Actually, full on rejection by the yellow 21. This one makes it difficult, man. Butyroll is certainly on the weaker side. Let's go to Mrs. Litecoin. How's she doing? Mrs. Litecoin, whoa, Jesus Christ. Look at the 3-day right there. Massive rejection. You can see the white 200 simple just governing price action the whole way down. This one looks like it wants to come back down to 86, about 86 bucks, 85 and 3/4. I mean, it looks bad, man. It looks fucking terrible, actually. This does not look good. It does not. It looks like it wants to come back down here at the very least, like 89. And let's say those other targets, Jesus Christ, man, 82.5. Ugh. Yeah, this one's already got it too. Did we wait? No, that was yesterday. Today, that's today. Okay, yeah. So this is actually how it does look. Wow, this is looking a lot more like a rejection right now. I'm not liking the way that this is shaping up. Really not liking the way that this is shaping up. Do I think that Bitcoin's going to remain bullish while Butyroll and Litecoin are not following? Probably not. I mean, they kind of follow equally. I want to see them all three like going in the same direction, and Butyroll and Litecoin look a lot more like sells right now than than you'd expect when Bitcoin's kind of coming down to what should be major supports, which we're actually breaking right now. So we spoke earlier about this yellow 20 exponential moving average on the 4-hour being right around 11.4 or 11.369. Kind of in the same area as far as I consider it in my brain. If we do break this area, then yes, I'd have to say that we're likely to come down to that same area on GBDC, and it's going to offer up some some actual downside there. So again, we're kind of coming into a little bit of a funny part of this, of this consolidation. A lot of people getting excited, once again, and I do think that longer term there is going to be a reason to be excited, but not just yet. In fact, we actually almost hit this next horizontal right here. This one's at 11,150. Anyways, before I get off and before I wrap it up, I'll quickly go over the higher time frames here. Again, longer term, I still do like what I see here. This is a monthly. We do see a nice consolidation at our highs. And if we do throw on the Trollinger bands right here, we actually even pushed the top Trollinger band yesterday. So the next time that we actually, even trade outside of that at 12,150-ish region, I would say that is likely to trend hard to the upside once again, just like we saw right on over here during 2015 to 2018. Once Bitcoin starts closing around the top side of this, it's setting up, typically speaking, and that's what I believe we're seeing right on over here. We saw a couple months of profit taking. That's okay. That's expected to be. But when we pair this up with our momentum oscillators, we do see quite clearly that longer term, I do like what I see. We're getting out of the bearish control zone here on the monthly Stokes, similar to what we did over here in December 2015, which accurately called the bullish momentum all the way here from Jesus Christ, $400 all the way to $20,000 just a few years later. And then we do see monthly RSI fighting for the bullish control zone as well. So I actually do like the signature. I still do think a lot of things are kind of lining up here, and higher time frames, looking more or less good. But remember, that takes its time to really play out. The lower time frames, going to be showing some downside here is not going to be too helpful to be looking at to be looking at a monthly and kind of judge things off that just yet. But looking at the 4-hour right here and kind of putting all the drawing tools back on and wrapping this bitch up, I would say Bitcoin still more or less consolidating on the medium and higher time frames. Lower time frames, looks like we are going to try to bounce off this region. But I really wait for the daily total close, which is also going to be a 4-hour close as well. If we do close back above the yellow 21, I'd say that's a relatively good sign. We probably do some sideways action here, and eventually probably resolve to the upside most likely. If we do close below the 4-hour 21 exponential moving average, then I would be looking for a formal test down to 11,150, and at that point probably very, very likely actually lower than that, perhaps into this 10.9 to 11,000 region right here, which would be confluent with GBDC, which actually has been leading price action for the past couple of weeks. So those are the two things that I'm really paying attention to. But again, for myself, looking at this as a more long-term type thing, I'm not really too concerned with this, especially as long as we remain above this pivot right here. I'd still say that medium, higher time frames and macro time frames are all bullishly biased. If we lose this area right here, medium time frames will now be bearishly biased, and lower time frames, of course, as well. But lower time frames right now, not those switch around like a million times a fucking day. the medium time frames you can actually kind of count on a little bit. Anyways, okay, so to wrap it up, if Bitcoin can get back above the 21 exponential moving average at 11.4 region, then I'd be looking for it to go essentially sideways, maybe test back up into this blue box territory right here. But again, just the name of the game would be sideways. By the same token, if we actually do close below, I'd be looking for a formal test of this horizontal right here at about 11.150. Probably a little bit of a short-term bounce there, but would start to line up a little bit more with a formal test down to this region from our July 15, July 16 breakdown, which would be confluent with GBTC and fulfill some of those areas as well. Anyways, that's going to do it for today's video. I'll be back on tomorrow with some more video and live stream analysis. Looking forward to seeing you there, and as always, wish you well on this beautiful Tuesday. Take care and see you soon.